Hi guys, welcome to the Unit 9 Lesson 3 intro video, Colonization and Independence in Africa. Today we're actually going to start with some vocab. These are some very important vocab words that I want to make sure we all understand before starting the lesson. Colonialism is politics by which one country seeks to rule other areas. Pan-Africanism was a political and social movement to unite Black Africans around the world. Apartheid was the former South African policy of keeping white and Black South Africans apart. Genocide is an attempt to destroy a whole group of people. And the Arab Spring was a 2011 movement for more democracy in the Arab world. Let's talk about empire. Many large and powerful empires emerged in Africa between 600 and 1650 CE. We've talked about many of them, like Mali, Ghana, Songhai, and Ethiopia. These empires grew through trade and conquest and had a lasting impact on the cultures and histories of the region. European rule. Europeans began trading with Africans in the 1400s. We know that gold was the main driver for Europeans at first. But beginning in the 1500s, African traders began selling enslaved people for guns. Europeans began sending these people to the Americas on the Atlantic slave trade, and 13 million people were sold, and hundreds of thousands died on the journey. After the slave trade was outlawed in the 1800s, Europeans began colonizing Africa. Colonization. Colonialism was adopted by most European nations. The main nations involved in Africa were Belgium, England, France, Germany, and Portugal. They took resources back to their home nations and set up new governments and economies that favored their agendas. By 1900, most of Africa was controlled by Europe. Here we can see a map of colonial rule in Africa in the year 1914. As you can see, most of Africa was conquered by European nations. The only independent nation at this time was Ethiopia. Independence. African independence movements gained momentum in the 1940s. In Ghana, a local political leader named Kwame Nkrumah promoted the idea of Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism was a political and social movement to unite Black Africans around the world. Ghana became independent in 1957. Pan-Africanism influenced other independence leaders, including Jomo Kenyatta in Kenya and others. In Kenya, the Kikuyu people started a political organization in the 1920s with the goal of independence from Britain. After years of negotiation and finally violence between the British and the Kenyan fighters, Kenya gained independence in 1963. Kenyatta led the new nation. Here we can see a map of when countries became independent. As you can see, most countries gained independence during the 1960s, shown in red. After independence, Africans weren't allowed to be involved in colonial governments. They had new leaders, new policies, and new justice systems imposed upon them. In Congo, a man named Joseph Mobutu gained power after Belgium granted independence. He ruled for 32 years and was corrupt and cruel. In Nigeria, a bloody civil war broke out between two ethnic groups. In South Africa, independence came with more oppression than under British rule. This was called apartheid. Apartheid was a form of strict segregation or separation of the races. This included at work, at school, in marriage, in medical care, and in voting. Protesters against apartheid were met with violence, and leaders like Nelson Mandela were jailed. However, in 1990, Mandela was released from prison, and the current president at the time agreed to end apartheid. Then in 1994, Mandela was elected president of South Africa. Rwanda. Division between two ethnic groups existed in Rwanda. The Hutu people were the majority, and the Tutsi people were the minority. Before colonization, the Tutsi ruled as the Belgians kept them in relative power over the Hutu. However, after the Belgians granted Rwanda independence, genocide broke out. Remember, a genocide is the attempt to eliminate an entire group of people. In 1994, the Hutu military killed around 1 million Tutsis. As you can see in the pictures, there are many memorials in Rwanda today showing the horrors of the Rwandan genocide. The Arab Spring. In 2010, a movement known as Arab Spring began in Tunisia. Tunisian protesters used social media to organize protests against their corrupt dictatorship. In 2011, a new democratic government was put into place after the dictator resigned. Many nations in North Africa and the Middle East followed suit. Some were successful, such as Algeria and Morocco, although others failed, such as Libya, which fell into a civil war. In Egypt, President Mubarak led an often corrupt and tightly run dictatorship for 30 years. Arab Spring protests forced him to resign in 2011. Democracy was not the only issue in this revolt. Mubarak's government had been secular or non-religious. Many Egyptians wanted an Islamist government. Islamism is a belief that government and society should reflect Islamic law. Egyptians elected an Islamist president, Mohamed Morsi, in 2012. The new Islamist constitution was put into place. Morsi's government set limits on opposition. But in 2013, the military imprisoned Morsi and banned his political party. Egypt's new government soon amended the constitution to give power to the military and police.